Democrats are fully aware how much they need Donald Trump in their lives. For as hard as they work to destroy the former president, without Trump, Democrat voters will be forced to focus on the myriad of idiotic policies being implemented by the people that they elect, as the party increasingly panders to angry, hyper-liberal wine and cheese coastal elites and wholeheartedly ignores the vast majority of everyday Democrat voters. If you've had the misfortune of watching CNN or MSNBC for the past 6 months, you probably had to remind yourself Trump is no longer in the White House. People like Nancy Pelosi secretly love Donald Trump. The billionaire former president is Pelosi's most effective muse. Without Trump, Pelosi is just another neurotic politician, scurrying quickly through the halls of Congress, addressing the media with a fake smile, pushing left-wing ideology as her own district rots along with the rest of America's big cities. The subject of the January 6th riot continues to be the single most important focus of a party that long ago abandoned the actual needs of its voters. And today, Speaker Pelosi reminded the country just how political and unimportant the House January 6th Commission would be by saying she would not seat two of the Republican nominations for that committee, Congressman Banks and Jordan. Pelosi writing, with respect for the integrity of the investigation, with an insistence on the truth and with concern about statements made and actions taken by these members, I must reject the recommendations of Representatives Banks and Jordan to the Select Committee. Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy responded by pulling all five, and here he was today.
Unless Speaker Pelosi reverses course and seats all 5 Republicans, we will not participate. Why would they jeopardize the lives of the Capitol Police? We will run our own investigation.
And with that, the very narrow window that Democrats had to prove that January 6th was more than just a bunch of pissed-off, unarmed Trump supporters trashing a government building, Pelosi's justifications for removing Banks and Jordan is that they objected to the electors. You remember that. What she wants you to forget is Congressman Jamie Raskin, who is on her committee, objected to the electors in 2016 when Trump won. Raskin had to be gavelled down by Joe Biden. Take a listen.
I have an objection because 10 of the 29 electoral votes cast by Florida were cast by electors not lawfully certified because they violated Florida's prohibition against dual office holding.
Debate is out of order.
Pelosi getting called out yet again. We've seen this before. But what is this really all about? Well, like everything else, this is a little more than just a power game to Nancy Pelosi. All she sees when she remembers January 6th is political capital. Yes, the Capitol was breached, and this network and every Republican has condemned that. But the hyper-dramatization is nauseating at this point. Unarmed, angry Trump supporters almost took over the country, armed with Trump flags. That's the storyline. Everybody can see what this really is, though. Pelosi wants to consolidate power, make sure January 6th is the only issue on voters' minds ahead of the midterm elections.
They're so focused on the January 6th committee. What else are they going to talk? Are they going to talk about crime? The fact that crime is up in every major urban area in this country. The price of bread is up. The price of gas is up. The price of an airline ticket's up. The price of the price of everything is up. They can't talk about that.
So Pelosi doesn't want Jim Jordan on the committee because he's an effective communicator and is going to say stuff like that the entire time. Jordan will also ask questions like why the sergeant at arms who reports to Pelosi ignored multiple requests for support that day. Maybe the political capital to be gained from that mob was more valuable than securing the building. Maybe certain people wanted that riot to breathe for a little while. That brings us to the bigger picture, the politicization of the Department of Justice and the FBI, and how Democrats and the deep state have used these institutions against their political opponents. Conservative Ben Weingarten writing last year, the president, talking about Trump, has exposed the rot and corruption of our ruling class. And there's no bigger poster child for that than the concerns about the corruption of the FBI. Remember last October when far right-wing militia groups were planning to kidnap Michigan's governor? This was the headline in the New York Times. FBI says Michigan anti-government group plotted to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. It's pretty scary stuff. Biden and the left use this as an example of conservative extremism, which is now, of course, the greatest threat to America, the world, and the universe. Look at how dangerous these Trump supporters are. Look at what they're capable of doing. Except now we're actually learning some new details from BuzzFeed, in fact. An examination of the case by BuzzFeed News also reveals that some of those informants acting under the direction of the FBI played a far larger role than was previously reported. working in secret, they did more than just passively observe and report on the actions of the suspects. Instead, they had a hand in nearly every aspect of the alleged plot, starting with its inception. The extent of their involvement raises questions as to whether there would have been a conspiracy without them. That's BuzzFeed. And it changes the story entirely, starting to feel a lot like Russia collusion around here, isn't it? Remember these declassified notes from the FBI agents who interviewed Michael Flynn? What is our goal? Truth, admission, or get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired? It's a dangerous pattern at the FBI. Are these same kind of politicized investigation techniques still being used? Maybe used against Trump, his supporters, maybe his family? Are these being used against Rudy Giuliani, who's being investigated for an alleged breach of foreign lobbying laws connected to his work in Ukraine? Is that the case against Thomas Barrack, a Trump associate who was arrested just this week? The Justice Department says he failed to register as agents of the United Arab Emirates as they attempted to influence Trump on foreign policy. That brings us to the idea of two justice systems, one for Republicans who are pursued by vindictive prosecutors and one for Democrats who seem to get a slap on the wrist a lot. Let's prosecute Barrack and Giuliani for undue foreign influence, but all of that crap about Hunter Biden, the Ukrainian gas company, the China stuff, Ukraine while his father was vice president, flying around on Air Force Two, closing deals. How about his laptop, which continues to just pour out evidence of corruption? The FBI can't be bothered. What about Tony Bobulinski? He actually worked with Hunter. Says Joe was in on the game too. Don't really care about that. What about a report that found Eric Swalwell, one of the most annoying Democrats we have, spent a small fortune on fine dining and booze as Swalwell cheated on his wife with a Chinese spy? Does it get any worse than that? Instead of an investigation, he's getting a promotion to the House Intel Committee. Great job, Pelosi. Meanwhile, Florida resident Paul Allard Hodgkins, seen on these videos here, inside the Capitol, holding a Trump 2020 flag over his shoulder and doing literally nothing else, as we've seen in court documents. He got 8 months in prison earlier this week. 8 months. You don't even get that for shooting people in New York anymore. This as Democrats actually paid the bail for rioters that gutted American cities, gutted your businesses, destroyed your cities all last summer, and Democrats were happy to pay the bail. The vice president was happy to pay the bail.